Hello and welcome to Tonalist Paintings by M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and Happy New Year. It is here in New Zealand, January 2nd, 2016, which is, in the future, I guess, for those of you in the States and Europe and any other place that speaks English pretty much except for Australia, which is, 3 hours ahead of us. Anyway, sorry, no video on Wednesday, but I just didn't want to shoot. I didn't want to squeeze one in at the end of the year, and I took a little time off and did some other things, but I was very close to doing the same thing again tonight, but I thought, well, I'll just start this year off. I like the Wednesday, Saturday thing, so what I've decided to do is there's quite a few times when I will do a study of a motif, and after I've done it, I decide to it doesn't work as a large painting, or in the case of this particular one, I actually did the drawing for the larger painting and just didn't feel that it scaled up. But I am happy with his study. I walk by it in the studio every day. It's on sort of a display table I have in the front of my studio, and it's got a nice quality to it. I can tell you right off the bat, the main thing I don't really like about it is the arc of the tree at the top. It's just something that I see a lot out here in New Zealand, and especially with these totara trees have a tendency to look just like that at a certain phase and in certain conditions. And I always think I can win this one, and so I go after it, and I keep trying to make it irregular, but somehow end up getting that sort of mushroom effect. But it really works well in the study. I'm happy with the study, and I'm also glad that I didn't pursue the larger painting as well. So there are actually, in every given pass that I do, probably 2 or 3 complete little 5x7 studies that I decide that I won't pursue as in a larger version. And this is just part of my way that I actually am dealing with not just the imagination, but how I'm interacting with photography and photographic reference. There's a lot that goes into my manipulation of the photographic reference I use, but it's still photos, it's still photographic, and there are times, this is one of the reasons why I do the studies, because it starts to become a painting. I start to figure out and solve the problems, and really it becomes apparent to me if a motif's going to work or not after I have completed the study and basically tried to solve all the problems that are inherent with that particular motif. That's not to say someone else couldn't maybe succeed with the same photographic reference where I didn't think it would be something that would work larger anyway. There's also the thing that some things seem to work well small and they don't really seem to scale up, and that's something I'm always working on in my work. I'm constantly trying to keep the freshness and immediacy that I get in those studies with the scaled up work, which is much larger, and there's so much more room to do things like detail and extra modulations of color. And in fact, I was doing some I do these little, I call them cards, but what they are is a print that's been attached to a piece of mat board and wrapped in a plastic sleeve, and I sell these very reasonably in my studio to tourists, and also at the shop there at the Quarry Art Center, and there's a couple galleries that sell them as well. And it's something that I generally put off doing, but seeing as this is a bit of a downtime of the year, especially here in New Zealand. It was so dead today at the shop, you wouldn't believe it. When I say shop, I mean studio. But I'm printing some of these older things that I knew sold, and I knew were good paintings too. And but I'm noticing a lot more of let's say a plethora of small brush strokes in these works, and that they almost have a more of a mosaic-y effect in that. And I know because I painted them. I didn't have the advantage of having videos of those paintings, but I can tell by just looking at it and knowing myself that it was, these extra strokes that I put in were all part of an effort to convey as much of the information of the scene as possible. And in these cases, if there were successful paintings, it wasn't necessarily detail, um, but it was a bit, I guess there's no nice way to say it. I feel they're a bit overworked. And so that's what I mean when I mean freshness. And I have succeeded at, to a much larger degree anyway, at dealing with that in my work. So the scaling up is all a part of that, because as I scale up, I have much more room. If I continue to use the same brush size as we've talked about in the blog, what I'll get is a lot more small strokes in the painting, which doesn't really look as good. Anyway, so what we get from the studies, another thing is that I use the study as a reference to complete my painting, which by that point in time I've synthesized that motif. I've painted it once completely small, and I've done a drawing pass and a color pass in a larger aspect, utilizing the photo reference. But at that point, I like to put that away, and I like to just go back to the study. And it's not even so much that I'm going to copy the study up larger. It's just that I have this habit or tendency of always wanting to look at something as I'm painting. In the form of reference of some type. So having the study instead of that photo, where the photo is just chock full of detail that you really don't want to put into your painting. And I've talked at length about this on the blog, and it's nothing unique to me. I mean, any painter that's worth his salt will tell you that detail is not the way, unless that's very much if that's a part of your style and what you're doing. Is to do excessively detailed work, then good on you, and you know what you're up to. So no critique of any other artist implied here. Anyway, Happy New Year again, and thanks for joining us. This was the 15th painting that we posted in this series of Tonalist paintings, and we're going to keep going, folks. So we're going to really try and do 2 a week for the rest of this year. So stay with me, stay tuned, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.